The sensations of owning a car and driving a car like this in comparison to, say, one of our restored cars is, I guess it's the fabric of a story. Whilst many of these cars have stories and have wonderful stories, this one seems to be unique. The fact it's a Japanese market car and it's working. So when you're in this driving and you're looking down at the speedo and it's saying 52,000 kilometres, so it's not even a high mileage car. And the leather's worn, and the smell, and the fact that the steering wheel itself is its original leather, and the gear knob is only done that limited amount of mileage around Japan. And it's a privilege to be able to be involved and to be connected to a car that's like that. And to look over the bonnet, and whilst again I know you might be seeing deficiencies in the paint and you might be seeing some rust, so when I'm in this car I do drive it in a completely different way than I do our restored cars or one of my other cars. So I think what it does is it connects you more the way the car was originally. My name is Alan Drayson, and today I'm driving a 1972 911S Targa. My car at university was pretty cool. I had a right-hand drive 2.2S, so whilst most people were turning up in an average car, I had a signal orange 2.2S as my daily driver. At the weekend, while most friends were going out, or in the evening, I would jump in the garage. I would always be working on cars. But whilst I did an undergraduate degree, still working on cars at the weekend, even at that stage, importing quite a few cars from the States. Once I finished that, I did do a bit of work in what I was qualified in. I did a PhD in geomorphology, and particularly coastal geomorphology, which sounds quite specific, but some of the skills I think you learn through education are skills that are transferable to restoration, to working on these cars, to tenacity, motivation, enthusiasm, dedication. They're all the skills that are required to work on these cars. So not long after finishing the PhD and running that business, I was walking with my now wife, and she said, well, why don't you just do it all the time? And it was this literal sort of eureka moment of thinking, well, yeah, why not turn that passion of something that I've already spent, probably even then, already spent 10 years working on cars, to do it for a living. And what was born then, literally that very day, was Canford Classics. And since then, the passion and enthusiasm has not diminished at all. In fact, it increases all the time with the number of cars, the new customers that we meet and the new designs, and also the car that we're looking at today. So the car here, it's quite an interesting story. We have a customer that was looking for a particular car, in particular a 1973 911 RS, which in its own right is a rare car. And I've got some good friends in Japan who so happened to find a 1973 911 RS. So I decided to fly to Tokyo to go and have a look at the car, but I only had a day. So I went to Japan for the day, which is not that close to the UK. And when I got there, I mentioned, I saw the car, and I mentioned I'm only here for a day, I'm flying out in another 8 hours. And they literally said, well, if you're crazy, we've got this car that we've heard about that's potentially for sale, would you like to come and have a look? And the car behind me is the car I went to see, which I instantly fell in love with. A 1972 left-hand drive 911S Japanese market car was sat there underneath this lean-to. I didn't understand any of the language except for the language of Porsche, and that was a car I didn't want to see scrapped. It is literally a barn find. The dirt on it's been there for 30 years. In fact, it's been off the road twice as long as it's been on the road. So deal was done very, very quickly, and the car was imported to the UK, where it's now with us. Well, we decided not to touch this car. Now, there's multiple reasons for that. One is you don't find old 911s. Not all 911s that have been off the road, and all 911s that haven't been touched. And for the same reasons that I fell in love with the car when I first saw it, was exactly the same reasons now I think others might. Now, whilst I understand it, it will be a Marmite car. There'll be individuals that maybe don't understand the same ethic as what we do, and that's kind of not the point. The whole point is, when I grew up, you saw old cars on the road, and I'm sure lots of you remember seeing old cars. Now, you don't even see 80s cars on the road, besides an old 911, and besides an old 911 which isn't restored. That it looks the way it's looked for many, many years. Now, because of that, I thought I wanted just to leave it. I wanted other people to see what an old 911 with 30 years of being off the road looks like. And you'll be surprised when you see it drives beautifully. So whilst it might look in some areas in need of a great deal of work, actually it doesn't. And it's such a pleasure to drive. Because this car's been off the road for so long, it's actually incredibly original. When you get to see it, some of the deficiencies and the rust, which actually looks quite severe, is only very, very surface. The actual shell itself is incredibly good. But because it is so original, we didn't want to do anything to it. But there are certain things you have to do. Now, while some barn finds, I'm sure individuals may just try and put some fuel in it and try. That's not the right thing to do. The engine, when we bought the car, the fuel pump was off, so I'm assuming that was the reason why the car was taken off the road back in the late 80s. So it was clear there's a fueling issue. There are certain other aspects which are as just a bare minimum. Clearly, we've had to go through the braking system, we've had to go through the whole fuel system, and whilst the engine was in the car, we decided to take the engine out, which is the original engine and the original gearbox, and we decided to fully strip and rebuild those items back to the way they would have been when they left the factory. The rest of the car, besides going through and making sure the electrical systems are correct and everything is working and functional, is left. It's as visually as I saw it in Tokyo. My favourite thing with this 911 is simple. It's a 1972 911S, which is a rare car in terms of all 911Ss made for that year. But it's a Japanese market car. So it's really unique. It's a Targa, so you can take the proportion of the roof out to enjoy that summer driving. But this car has also got a petrol heater, which kind of makes sense, I guess, for Japan, for the climate, for the winter months of pulling your petrol heater and having the warmth, but in the summer being able to take the roof off. And not only that, it's got a heated front screen. Now, I knew they made them, but I've never seen an original 1972 heated front screen. So I love the fact that this car is not only a 2.4S is unique, but some of the items on it are just incredibly unique. Certain stickers on the dash, there's certain badges on the wing, the aerial's different, the horns are different. So I think it's all these little details which might make me slightly anal in terms of looking at those details, but they're the bits I love, and the fact is it's still on an old 911 and it looks like this and it's such fun to drive.